2,000 years ago, Seneca said that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And what Seneca understood is something that we need to understand now in our present age. And if we don't understand it, we're going to be held back. We're going to live in fear and inaction. We're going to fail to achieve what we want to achieve. And we're going to fail to build the life that is available to us. What he understood was something I call the catastrophic wormhole. The catastrophic wormhole is essentially where you take an event or a thought or a trigger and you blow it up into something a lot bigger, a lot more overwhelming and all-consuming. So let me give you a few examples. The most common one is you have a girlfriend that breaks up with you. By the way, I'm catering my videos towards men primarily with the personal development stuff. If you have an issue with that, you can unsubscribe. That's a side note. Anyway, you have a girlfriend that breaks up with you. This is an event, and it's an unfortunate event, or it could be a fortunate one. We'll find out later in life. But you take this and you start spiraling down this loop of doom thinking. And what happens is this event of your girl breaking up with you has now become, I'm never going to find someone like her again. I'm going to be lonely. I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. And as a result, I'm not going to be happy. And so you've taken one event over here, and now it's become this perception of reality that's completely false and twisted. But that's what you've thought yourself into. Another example. Maybe you're overweight and you're lazy. And you start thinking, you'll fall into this trap of thinking, this is who I am. I can't change it. I'm overweight because I'm lazy and I just can't seem to fix this. And so this is going to spiral. It's going to get worse. I'm going to get fatter. I'm going to get lazier. And eventually I'm going to die and no one's going to like me. And no women are attracted to me, and so on and so on and so forth. Another example. Let's say your boss gets upset at you for something. Maybe you didn't even do anything. He's just having a bad day. And you start thinking, that's it. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my income. I'm going to end up on the streets. Again, you're taking this singular event and you're basically building this catastrophic story around it, even though you don't need to. And so most of us do this. I would say 95% of us, we do this. Something happens to us and we start catastrophizing it. I did this last week. We had a bad sales week with business. Things weren't going well. And I started noticing myself spiraling through this doom thinking of like, my business is going to fail. I'm going to need to do something else. What if I don't succeed with that? What if I lose all my money? So on and so on and so forth. So by now you should know what I mean by the catastrophic wormhole. It's when you start spiraling down this dark path of what could happen, usually unlikely, but what could happen. And so how do you avoid this? How do you avoid falling into the catastrophic wormhole? There's some advice out there from therapists, from counselors, psychologists that you can find on Google. I don't claim to be an expert in any of that stuff. I'm only going to share what has helped me and a few others who I've talked about this with. The first thing you need to do is acknowledge the event for what it is. And by that, I mean, don't make it worse than what it actually is. And also don't delude yourself into thinking that it isn't a problem. For instance, let's say you're overweight and you're lazy. On one hand, you don't want to catastrophize this and start telling yourself, this is who I am. I'm never going to change. I'm going to get fatter and fatter, lazier and lazier. No one's going to like me. No woman will respect me, and I'm going to be alone for life and then die. You don't want to do that. On the other hand, you don't want to ignore it and say, yeah, I mean, it's all good. I'll keep doing my thing. Being overweight and lazy isn't that bad. It will fix itself at some point. Those are both bad approaches. You want to avoid them altogether, and you want to see it for what it is. You're overweight and you're lazy, and they're probably linked. You're overweight because you're lazy, and as you get more overweight, you lack energy levels, you become more lazy. It's a negative cycle. Let's just view it as that, though, instead of creating this worst case scenario outcome or completely ignoring it. And I think depending on the situation, there's a tendency to ignore or to make it worse. Sometimes you flick between doing both. I definitely do that with business. If we're having a bad month or bad sales week, you know, on one hand, I start catastrophizing and think this is the end of it all. And then on the other hand, I just go, no, it's fine. Like, it'll fix itself. And I think that's also a dangerous attitude to have, because there might be an underlying problem that needs to be dealt with in the business, in the situation, or whatever. So that's the first step, to analyze it for what it truly is. And that's it. And just view it dispassionately and objectively, right? As much as you can, you want to take emotion out of this. The second step after analyzing what the issue actually is to then think about the potential consequences. This is where you have to be extremely honest with yourself, because there's a fine line between catastrophizing and coming up with a future reality that is irrationally negative and actual consequences that are likely to happen as a result of you not taking action, for example. So if we go back to the business analogy, my business has had a bad sales month, the metrics don't look good, things are declining. Again, on one hand, I can ignore this completely and pretend it doesn't exist. Bad move. On the other hand, I can catastrophize it and tell myself, I'm not a good entrepreneur. I'll never be able to build a good business again. This is going to fail completely. Everyone's going to hate me, all my staff, my wife, so on and so on and so on. That's also irrationally negative. But I do need to look at it, to look at these declining metrics and be honest and go, if this continues down the same path, then there is a chance, a significant chance, that this business will fail. It will start losing money and I'll need to shut it down. So that is a potential negative outcome. It might even be a likely negative outcome. Or your girlfriend breaks up with you and you don't want to ignore it and say, well, she just broke up with me because she's a bitch. I mean, that might be true, but let's say she broke up with you because you, as a man, you're not working on yourself, you lack ambition, you lack drive, you lack a plan, and she can't deal with that. You can choose to ignore that and make up some story about why she just left you because, again, she's a bitch. Or you can catastrophize it and go down the path of forever alone. Or you can analyze it truthfully and think, okay, this is what happened. This is what she said to me. These are the potential consequences if I don't take action to improve this. And it might be that you won't find another girlfriend, you won't find a life partner who respects you and the type of partner who you want if you don't improve yourself first. So the first step is to analyze exactly what has happened, the event. The second step is to then analyze and kind of look forward into the future to the potential consequences, not the catastrophic consequences that are irrationally negative and not ignorance, but the potential likely consequences that will take place if you don't take action. Those are the first two steps. And if you do this, if you manage to do this with a clear mind, in a calm state, you will instantly feel better about the situation because you've taken it from this huge, all-consuming thing to a compartmentalized issue. This is one thing in your life that you're dealing with. There's all this other stuff going on over here, but it's not this all-consuming thing that needs to take up all of your mental capacity and energy. Now, the third step is to ask yourself, why has this happened? Why is this the case? You can spend a lot of time on this. I don't recommend it. Usually you'll be able to figure out what's going on fairly quickly. And I'm going to continue with these 3 analogies: the business one, overweight and lazy, and the breakup. So let's start with business. Let's say your business is declining. It's failing. You've analyzed this. You can see the potential consequences. The next step is to ask yourself, why is this happening? What's actually going on behind this? What caused this? Maybe it's because something in your sales funnel is broken, or you've got a sales rep who's putting off customers, or you've got a team member who's sabotaging the entire company. So you need to analyze the problem for what it is. In the case of being overweight and lazy, why are you this way? Is it because of some past event? Is it because your wife or your girlfriend or whoever brings home snacks every night after work? Figure out what the issue is. Why are you overweight? Why are you lazy? Maybe get your testosterone levels checked. It's a big thing. In the case of the breakup, why did she leave me? Maybe it's because she needed to. Maybe it's a good thing that she left you. Maybe she had other issues going on. Or maybe it was your fault to some extent and you need to improve yourself. But you need to analyze why this thing happened, why it came on. So the first step, to recap so far, we need to analyze it, the event, for what it is. We need to look at the potential future consequences, the accurate future consequences, not the catastrophized ones. We need to avoid ignorance. And the third step is to analyze or ask why this happened in the first place. Once you've done that, it's time to figure out what needs to be done. This is the fourth step. So going back to the business example, the sales are declining in my business. The potential consequences include the business failing. Why this has happened? Well, it's because we haven't been pushing marketing hard enough through paid acquisition and email, let's say. And then it comes to, well, what do we need to do to fix it? And in this case, it might be hire someone to execute on these marketing channels. It might be scheduling out time to do the work yourself. It might be paying a consultant to solve the problem that you're dealing with. But you identify these next actions, the things that you need to do to fix it, right? Everything that you need to do to fix it. It might be 5, 6, 7 different things that are causing your business sales to decline. You need to identify all of them. In the case of being overweight or lazy, again, it might be 5 things that you need to fix over time. It might be that you need to start implementing small, consistent personal habits, like getting better sleep, cooking your own dinner, going to the gym, walking outside, things like this. Stop eating snacks. Tell your partner to stop bringing home snacks. In the case of the breakup, it might be become a Chad, go to the gym, all these other things. Once you've done that, the fifth step is then to identify the next required action, or the one that has the most leverage and the one that you're actually going to do. In the case of business, if your business sales are declining, you need to identify the thing that will reverse that trajectory as confidently and as soon as possible. And so if you've got these 6 different options and one of them stands out as, well, that's most likely to work, it doesn't take a huge amount of effort, let's focus on that. That is what you then focus on. That is the fifth step. It is to take massive, relentless action towards solving the issue. In the case of being overweight, being lazy, it might be something like going to the gym. Or it might be that you need to get to bed earlier because your sleep deprivation is causing all kinds of issues with impulse control, weight gain, and everything else. And so if you can just fix your sleep, you know that it will be easier to implement these other habits. In the case of the breakup, it might be that you need to keep yourself busy, and so you need to take up a new hobby, or you need to start lifting weights. Whatever it is, identify the 80-20 task, 80-20 project, or 80-20 habit that is going to have the most results with the least amount of effort. By least amount of effort, I don't mean that it should be easy. It's not going to be easy. And sometimes you do need to do the thing that's going to require a lot of effort, but is going to produce the results. So I don't really believe that you should take the path of least resistance. And there are some people out there who say if you're trying to turn your life around, you need to, build tiny little habits and then scale them up. I partially agree with that, but I've also seen people turn themselves around pretty quickly by taking massive action towards multiple habits and towards things that actually require effort. That is the 5th step. And if you do all those steps, if you follow all of those steps, you will solve the problem eventually. Furthermore, when you're taking action on this, when you analyze it properly, when you look at the future consequences, you figure out what needs to be done and you start doing it, you will avoid catastrophic thinking. At the very least, you will suppress it so much that it doesn't become as much of an issue. Because catastrophic thinking thrives in inaction. It thrives in a space where you're not doing anything, where you're not moving towards fixing the solution. Because you just have a problem, you're not doing anything to solve it, and so you start thinking about that problem. You become anxious about it. When you're taking action towards fixing it, you know that you're on the right path. You know that any catastrophic thinking can be solved by taking more action. So let's just recap this video because it's important to understand. The catastrophic wormhole is something most of us fall into when an event happens, a certain trigger happens, might be big, might be small. We basically take whatever this thing is, we expand it out, we make it more complex, more overwhelming, more consuming. What we need to do is first analyze this thing, this event, for what it truly is. Not what it could be in the future, but what it truly is. The second thing is to ask yourself, what are the potential future consequences of this? And this is the true consequences, not the ones you've made up. It's important not to ignore these, lest you become ignorant about your problem and try and shove it under the blanket and it just becomes bigger and worse. The third step is to ask yourself why this problem happened in the first place. Is it a character flaw? Is it something that you did? Is it just by chance or randomness? Is it like a health scare, for instance, and you're a healthy male? There are some things that are outside of your control. But as much as you can, ask yourself why this happened, because if it's something that you caused, then understanding why it happened will help lead towards a solution. And that's number 4, identify all the practical things that you can do to solve this, to move things forward. And number 5 is to pick the best one and start taking massive, relentless action towards it. And if you do that, my friends, you will solve the issue of the catastrophic wormhole. I'm not saying that you won't fall back into it. I'm not saying that you'll eliminate it for life. I don't think you can, but you will have the tools, the framework, and the strategy to manage it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more like this, and I'll see you next time.